Thanks for staying with us. Now let's get to this very important conversation. IGP Olatunji Disu has inaugurated an 8-man member committee to state policing. This was during his first formal engagement with senior officers following his confirmation as the 23rd Indigenous Inspector General of Police. Let's first of all listen to this report by our correspondent, Siphon A. Sien.
The meeting comes days after the Nigeria Police Council unanimously ratified his appointment, clearing the way for his swearing in by President Bola Tinubu. IGP Disu says that leadership is not about position but responsibility.
Our authorities derive not from merely status, but from public trust. Once that trust is weakened, our effectiveness is diminished. Under my leadership, professionalism, accountability, and transparency shall not be a slogan. It shall be a standard. We must be clear-eyed about our realities. In an era of heightened public scrutiny and instant communication, every action of the police reflects instantly on the entire police force.
The new police boss underscores that authority is strongest when exercised with restraint, insisting that respect for human rights remains fundamental.
The Nigerian police force is, first and foremost, the people's police, and our continued relevance depends on the confidence the public places in us.
On President Tinubu's drive to establish state policing, IGP Disu inaugurates an 8-member committee to develop modalities for implementation.
Your task is critical. We want you to review the policing framework, assess the feasibility, and propose implementation strategies. Focus on structure, funding, training, and accountability. Your recommendations will shape Nigeria's security landscape.
With this development, all eyes are on the federal government's quest to establish state policing structures. Siphon A. Sien, TVC News, Abuja.
Now joining us for this conversation is security consultant and public affairs analyst Darlington Umoru. Mr. Umoru, good to have you join us this morning. Welcome to the show.
A pleasure once again.
Indeed. You are somebody who has been very keen in this security area, and I know you have a lot you want to churn out, to us today. But let's first of all get your opinion on the ratification and appointment of Olatunji Disu as the, IGP now, and what he has done, because this is what he said from day one he was going to do, and he has hit the ground running. What's your take?
It's overdue. Again, even though his coming was not a surprise to so many of us, it is the prerogative of the president to decide who is to bring in at what point. That person ordinarily should have satisfied some of the yearnings of the president, as it were. Against what you and I have seen, the president is led into determining who becomes the Inspector General of Police as a result of the various issues concerning security as may have been submitted to his table, either through the office of the answer or the answer basically, and all that will come together to determine what or who he chooses to becoming the next IGP. The last IGP officially his office had expired some time ago, and it was prolonged, by virtue of some of this factor concerning how much he's doing or may have done in terms of security. Of course, don't forget that the internal security of the country depends on the lapse or table of whoever becomes or whoever remains the IGP at what time, as determined again by the office of Mr. President. And so what we have seen to some of us the likes of Shore and a few others have called for the removal of the last IGP by virtue of what they have seen or what they think is best to them as individuals, not necessarily to the country. You know, all of this is determined, but the position of Mr. President is most important, like I say, because he's wearing the cap and he knows which one fits best.
Yeah. You've tried to walk on a very fine line of politics and security, but that's fine.
Well, all the same, if you look at state police has been a long, overdue conversation, and we see that the current IGP is actually well disposed to it. In fact, one of the first things that he said was that it's not going back on, state police. But if you look at the recent incident that happened in Ondo or York, Kebbi overnight, we saw these guys, the gunmen wreaking havoc in those states. They disguised as vigilante men to kidnap 4 on Kishi Betty Road, abducted wife, shoot husband in Ondo. They also killed even the traditional leader in one of the southwestern states. Not to even talk about what is happening in the north and some other places. We see the committee leadership will be chaired by Professor Olu Ogunshaki, a specialist in police studies. As they judge, look at how the framework for the state police, what do you think they should have at the back of their mind as they work towards, this actualization?
Well, again, all of that will boil down to it's a question, actually, and it's an issue Mr. President wants to get results on. He actually wants to find out how much they have done and how much of it is relevant to the security situation, the security architecture, as it has to do with the general security arrangements of the country. Again, that matters the most to those who are concerned about the daily security architecture of the country. Now, if those of them who are the committee members decide whatever they found out will also determine the state of the policing in Nigeria to Mr. President. Mr. President is concerned, AU is also concerned, ECOWAS is also concerned, the United Nations is also concerned. If you look at the population of the Nigerian police today, no inspector general of police will be able to state exactly the figure of the Nigerian police as it is today. None.
Why is it difficult? Because don't they have registered? They receive salary, so they should have their numbers.
They receive salaries, they have the numbers, but they cannot really place their fingers on the number of policemen that are killed on a daily basis. They cannot really place their fingers on the number of policemen that are maimed on a daily basis. They really cannot place their finger or do diligence on the number of police being recruited, juxtaposed on what number is left, by the day. The UN report says that for every 24 hours a policeman is killed across the nation. How much of importance have you considered as a Nigerian to that factor? How much of importance have you considered as a security architecture to that factor? How much of all of that would you consider as a man who is concerned about the security situation in Nigeria, looking at all of this coming together and putting them under a control where a control that you can use at the end of the day to actually be able to say that this is the number remaining from the total number you have gotten in terms of the number you have recruited, juxtaposing that on the number killed or maimed or those who are removed from active service on a daily basis. Until you are able to do all of this, which even the IG of police can only give you a figure, which he thinks is the normal figure they should have but would not be able to tell you specifically the number that has left. You talked about those being paid salaries. On the basis of that, they should be able to use the figures on that register to say this is what we have. Does that really follow? When we talk of active policemen, we are not talking about policemen who are inactive, who are out of duty, who are hospitalized, who are not there to do the daily activities they are meant to carry out. Yeah. What is the population of Nigeria, for instance? Does it coexist with the what UN has stated in terms of how many policemen are meant to look after a cognizance of your population in terms of the number of policemen you have? Yeah. The answer is obviously no.
Yeah, sure.
When the IGP was appointed, he made it very, very clear. You see where I'm going shortly. That he would want to focus on the issue of human rights or civic rights. Then he spoke about the issue of corruption, which I believe must be corruption within the Nigerian police force. You know, the rank and file police officers wanting to prevent a situation where policemen are extorting members of the public, or you are paying money, you know, to file a petition to be signed, you know, by the IG and all that. So he came out with those agenda then. Now he's focused on something else again, which is on the issue of state police, which I think is better placed to do, simply because he has headed a formation in Lagos called RRS, which was funded strictly by the Lagos State Police, Lagos State government, and therefore he has a kind of some form of understanding of how the RRS, funded by Lagos State government, interfaced with his own main employer, which is the Nigerian Police Force. So, bearing that in mind, it gives him some measure of advantage. Now, where I'm going is this. You've spoken about the issue of data, you know, maybe it's about data analysis and all that. The IG not knowing how many policemen are killed on a daily basis, or how many are being recruited and one thing or the other, or maimed. Could that be as a result, you know, of the fact that the Police Service Commission is responsible for the recruitment of police officers? Could that be a function of the division of responsibility, while the IG is the one, you know, managing the police officers, but in terms of recruitment and promotion, that lies with the Police Service Commission? Could that be a conflict? I'm trying to see whether that could fix the problem in terms of responsibility.
Yes, let me begin from the area you started from. Every Inspector General we have had, they've often come with situations that will make you feel that they are actually on top of the game. But are they actually on top of the game? Sincerely, if we want to look at it, are they actually on top of the game? These are persons who are sometimes appointed as a result of a political venture. They are meant to be there to serve or to pose as police officers because they are playing the games of whoever is in charge.
But that's not supposed to be the case, is it?
It's not supposed to be the case. But what are we experiencing in Nigeria? I'm bringing on board the situation in Nigeria as a country. Is it what is supposed to be on the board, or what it is, or who you want? If you want to look at it, how long is Disu supposed to remain in office, calculating the number of years he's meant to serve?
Yeah, again, that's a different matter, because
no. I'm coming to your question, please. He kind of took me off what I was trying to say. The truth is, yes, every man that is appointed will need to tell the man who appointed him, and then the man who is in charge, and those who are listening and watching, the fact that yes, you are in charge, you know certain things, and you need to prove them, and you need to tell the people what they need to hear from you to actually be able to say that yes, I am in charge. Yes, I have done this. Yes, I have seen this. Yes, I have noticed this. Now, until you are able to put all of this together, you will not be able to say precisely how much you know about the system you are coming to lead. That is an aside. Now, until when you achieve all of this and you are able to tell even the man who appointed you that you are able to do this, otherwise he has a right to say you should go home. So you needed to still tell him that you are in charge because you know all of this. And so you must state them the moment you are appointed. You must state them. If you don't state them, it meant that you do not know why you are being appointed. So he has done what he is supposed to do. That is not surprising to people like us who are in the system. We are not surprised that he made such comments. Because he's trying to buttress why he is there as the head of the policing arrangement.
Yeah.
Irrespective of how it comes. Secondly, if you move away from that, and then you bring it on to the other aspect where you have to think of what he's supposed to do and what he has done or what he has achieved. Again, he needs to also tell you that he is capable of doing what he needs to do, and then he's doing what he needed to do, and then he also needs to remain in office beyond the time he's supposed to remain.
Mr. Moore, what you're saying
just a minute.
is a little...
If you remember, the House of Reps did amended the Police Act. Previously, it used to be 35 years or 60 years of age, whichever comes earlier. That has been amended to read tenure. That is, you can be appointed when you are 59 years old, and then you have to serve a tenure of 4 years. So that no longer applies, in my view.
That's right.
Even though that does not apply, my brother, you still need to do something to tell the people that you are capable. If you do not do that, if you fail to achieve that, in all of that, I see questions. So people are agitated. They want to ask questions. But if you do not do that, my brother, if you made me the head of news, and then I'm unable to tell you some of the things you need to hear to convince you that I actually know the job, you will push me out, because there are so many people who are wanting to sit on that seat, who are wanting to answer that name at the same time. But what is the truth? The truth is the Nigerian population actually benefiting from the office of the IGP? Is the Nigerian population actually being led by what policing ought to be in your country?
But you have not answered that question. Could it be that the issue of Police Service Commission being responsible for recruitment and promotion of police officers and not the IG, will that explain the lack of, is the issue of data?
Until we are able to solve certain problems which have created quagmires between institutions, it is not right. The Inspector General is the head of the police arrangement, policing. Whether you bring in the commissions and all of them, it is not right to state publicly that the police Inspector General cannot give you data concerning the police. Because hang on 1 second, please. Do you know that anything that has to do with the policing of the country is supposed to, at the end of the day, land on the table of the Inspector General? The Inspector General is the arbiter of the Nigerian police, not just the Nigerian police, the entire intelligence arrangement. Until you are able to achieve that, these are not some of the things we need to come and discuss publicly. These are some of the things you need to discuss within inside a confinement. Otherwise, if you want to state it, if you want to look at it, when you talk of policing, who is in charge?
I think Tunji Disu would definitely have access to some of this data, and then he will use them. Because I remember when he was talking to press, he said that when he was the Commissioner of Police in FCT, that it lost 140, policemen, to insecurity and all of that. So definitely we'll use them. But the challenge there is Nigerians still complain about how the police react. How they fight crime. It is usually reactive. Is it that we don't have adequate intelligence in order to fight against insecurity before they even happen? So how do you think, because he attended the RRS, and of course that works on intelligence, how do you think he can use that on a broader level, for Nigeria, which is way larger than Lagos multiple times?
You see, there's something I'm trying to run away from.
Which is the question I actually wanted to ask you, because I see what you're doing, Mr.
It's always complex when
I'm
it comes to
listening to your
security
train of
matters.
thought, and you're walking on the lines of politics and security, trying to be careful. On one hand, you don't have a doubt on the capacity of the new IGP, but on the other hand, you're not really so enthusiastic about his appointment. What's going on here?
Well, what's going on here is that Mr. President has made a decision which we must all support and abide to. That's what is going on here.
But what are you saying as a security consultant who is playing within the field? What's the feeling like within that sector?
What the feeling is like is that Mr. President has appointed a man into an office, and we must all support that man to succeed.
You're not saying that.
You can see precisely where the issue of data, the cause of that problem has not been addressed. So I understand. When it comes to security matters, it's always very complex.
You see, let me be frank with you. Let's be frank. Let's be frank.
Please.
When it comes to security matters, you have to be careful. You have to be careful in certain areas so that you don't make some people look as if they don't know what they were doing when certain decisions were got into. Okay, otherwise you want to begin to question certain things. And the moment you begin to question certain things, it goes again all round to talk about the person who is behind the appointment of certain persons. Okay? Like he said, which to me sounds or looks somehow, you have a number of men who have been working within that confinement over time and have grown over time, and ought to have they have had their data over time, and then somebody is supposed to have monitored what they are doing over time. And then it comes to a certain time, and then you say, this man has to do this. The moment you increase the tenure of this man, it affects the tenure of this other man. And the time you are supposed to put in, it affects it. So when you get such persons, when you get certain persons' tenure increase, it affects Mr. A or it affects Mr. B. Now, the input of A and B to the man at the center will be different. Will not be the same thing that you expect, even though he is supposed to be responsible. Do you understand?
I will.
Now, if Mr. A and B, their responsibility to this office becomes different by virtue of what they are supposed to be or be doing, then there's a problem. That's if right. They are looking at situations where Mr. C at the middle, A, B, and C, if C at the middle is supposed to achieve a particular goal, and then B and A are not really supporting what he's doing, even though they will not come out openly on top until that man is removed for them to get into that office, then there's a problem. The issue you raise is a big challenge that has not been addressed. Now, you often had situations where Mr. A will tell you that B is in charge of this area. Even though B is in charge of a particular area, what is C supposed to be doing at the time C is supposed to be in charge? So there are lots that we can really not say, except when we need to criticize them. We need to do good criticism, trying to either bring one person down and say to somebody that the appointment you have made is not right, or the appointment you have made is right. But all we need to do for the purposes of security, to ensuring that we have good security, considering what we are facing in this country at the point in time we have found ourselves, is to support whoever has been brought in.
Security consultant and public affairs analyst Darlington Umuru, thank you so much for your time. You raised very germane systemic issues which I hope would bring you again on the table to expand on that conversation. But we must thank you at this time for being on the show today.
My pleasure being here, and I will always want to be here anytime, any day.
Thank you for that. Now, and after the break, we'll continue the conversation on the creation of state police and how this will translate to security development in Nigeria. Join us after the break for more.